Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is about the 5 financial mistakes to avoid after college. So these are all mistakes that I personally made after college, and now looking back I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much money, or I didn't save enough money, or I could have better managed my money. And I think they're really easy kind of financial traps, I guess you could say, to fall into. So I just want to make you aware of it so that you can make a more conscious decision when you're figuring out your finances after you've graduated. So the first mistake I made was not matching my 401k to the max. So if you're working for a company that offers a 401k, the way that they work is that the company will usually match up to a certain percentage. So if you contribute a certain percentage of your salary to your 401k, then your company will also match that same amount, and it's usually up to a certain percentage. So when I first graduated college, the percentage that was offered to me for a match was up to 6%, and I think I contributed 3%. That was like 3% extra that I just left on the table. 3% of like extra money that my company would have just given to my 401k that I didn't, and that's thousands of dollars every single year. So if your company offers that 401k, make sure you read the fine print, see what that match is, and make sure that you're matching up to that full percent. You don't necessarily need to go beyond it, especially, if you're in your early 20s, because usually you just kind of get a little bit more aggressive with your contributions as you get older. But you want to make sure you're at least contributing that same percentage amount, because otherwise you're just leaving money on the table. You're wasting that free money that's being offered to you to contribute to your 401k. The second thing is buying a new car. So I technically did this like my senior year of college. But either way, I know I personally bought a car. I also have seen from Facebook and everything a whole bunch of other friends who have bought new cars and whatnot. And while I did need a car, I didn't necessarily have to buy a brand new car. And it's funny once you graduate college, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so rich. I have so much money now, because you're used to living on such a small minimal amount every single month. So once you actually start bringing in a proper income, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm rich, and you think you can buy all these things. But the reality is that yes, I'm sure you can afford to buy a car. I'm sure you can afford to buy a brand new car, but I would definitely recommend that you take the time to research and find a car that's gonna work for you, that's gonna last you several years. I would take the time to build up a very decent amount for a deposit on your car, which is something I didn't do. And I would just research different options and different loan options, different cars, different car lots, and figure out the best rate that you're going to get for interest, and what your monthly payment's going to be, and what a monthly payment's going to be that's not going to stretch you too much, that still allows you some flexibility. So I would definitely give yourself a few months after, at least, to kind of level out your budget and really see where your spending's kind of at, and then decide how much you can really afford for a car payment if you decide to go that route of getting a car with a car payment. If you can prevent getting a car payment and you could just save and buy a car outright, I think that's even better. I also would definitely recommend buying a used car over a new car, just because the value of a new car decreases significantly right when you drive it off the lot. So at this point in your life, you don't really need a fancy car. You don't need a car with all the bells and whistles. You just need a car to get you to the grocery store and back, and get you to work and back. You don't need anything fancy. So keep that in mind and just figure out what's going to work with you if you do need a car, and try to stick with something a little bit more basic and really affordable, because for me, it's really frustrating. Every month, I could totally afford my car payment, but then I also think oh, I could use that $300 elsewhere for something else. And I feel like my money would be better being spent towards something else than that car payment. So just things to consider before you just go and outright buy a brand new car. The third mistake I made was spending way more than my income. I really struggled when I graduated college with feeling really lonely and very lost in life, and almost a little bit depressed. And the way that I combated that was through shopping, and I would just go to stores and just buy a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't need, didn't even really want, but it made me feel good because it gave you that quick dose of is it dopamine? I think that just makes you instantly feel better. So I just kept buying things and spending things, and it took me a while before I realized that, wow, I'm spending way more than I should on stuff that I don't need, that I'm not going to use. And so much of it I've gotten rid of at this point that it's like, oh, the thousands of dollars that I'm sure I've wasted on just buying things during this period is kills my soul a little bit, to be honest. But ways that you can combat this is really making a budget, seeing where all your bills are, what you can spend, and making financial goals for yourself as well. And, is your goal to be able to go on some really nice vacations and trips in a couple of years that you can save for? Is it paying off your student loans as quickly as possible? Is it putting extra money towards your retirement so you don't have to worry about it later in life? What are those financial goals for you? And that'll also really help curb your spending because you actually have something to put your money towards every single month. My fourth mistake was not putting extra money towards my debts. So when I graduated college, I had my student loans and I had my car debt. And instead of putting some extra money, because I easily could have put a couple $100s extra every month towards those debts, I just decided to spend that money and spend frivolously, and just spend all my money instead of putting that money towards those debts. And I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I could have, my car could be paid off by this point if I would have put that money. I could be in such a better financial place. I could have so much more in my savings and so much more, so much less student loan debt if I would have just put those couple extra $100s a month towards that debt instead of spending it on stuff that I didn't even need. So really, really evaluate your budget. See where your spending's at. And one thing I wish I would have done was just kept with the mentality, my college money mentality of, I have no money that I can spend. This is all that I can spend, and this is all that I have, and this is all that I can do, instead of being like, oh, I make so much money now, I can just spend all my money on this, and oh, let me buy you this, and I need all these purses, and all these clothes, and all these things that you don't actually need. So really look at your purchases, look at your budget, and try to stick with that mentality until you're at least in a really comfortable financial position to just say, hey, I'm still going to act as if I'm not making this money. I'm still going to act as if I'm only making this much every single month. And this is all I have to live on. And this is what I need to do. And if you can do that, it's going to be so crazy for you, the amount that you can actually save for yourself. So evaluate your budget and see what options that you have for yourself. But if you can put anything extra towards your debt, please do. It's just going to make you feel so much better. It's going to be a big stress relief. It's going to make you more happy and grateful later on in your life as well. The last mistake that I made was not contributing to my savings on a monthly budget, which is kind of a weird thing for me because growing up, my mom always kind of told us hey, put something from your paycheck towards your savings every month. Even if it's just $10 or $20, it's going to add up. So just put at least something in your savings every single month. And that's always what I did growing up. And then for some reason, when I started making money, I had a good amount of money in savings, and I was like, well, this is all I need. And I stopped contributing money to my savings. And it's crazy how quickly those savings can get depleted when something comes up. So just keep contributing, even if it's just a little amount every single week, every single paycheck, whatever works for you, but just contribute just something towards it. It doesn't have to be hundreds of dollars, $20, $50, $10, whatever works for you, but it's going to slowly add up. And that way, if something crazy comes up, you're a little bit more prepared and you don't have to just throw it on a credit card or do anything crazy, and you have that cash available to you, because there are certain circumstances in life where you need cash available to you. And if you don't have that cash available to you, you're kind of screwed. So at least contribute a little bit of something, because it's going to make your life so much easier, a lot less stressful when something does come up. And yeah, it's just going to make you much more financially stable in general. So those are the 5 mistakes that I made after college, after graduating from college, and I hope that you can avoid these mistakes now that you know and can learn from my mistakes. I really hope that these help you out, and if they do, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.